Welcome to the Man United stream. Hope you're doing well. It is a day which we thought was going to come a bit earlier, but it is coming. We've got news about the Glazers not being too pleased with Jim Ratcliffe. And, well, we heard a couple of months ago, not a couple of months ago, but about 3 months ago, we reported how the Glazers were speaking with a consortium in Dubai or in the Middle East about selling Man United. And now we're getting those same reports coming out, but this time it feels different. This time there's reputable sources actually reporting that the Glazers are looking to reprimand Jim Ratcliffe for what he said last week because they feel like this is affecting their commercial revenue. We all know that the Glazers are all about money. All they care about is commercial success. And of course, that's their area of expertise, right? That's what they're covering right now at United. They're not dealing with the football inside because they don't really care about football inside of things. They don't actually know a lot about football inside of things. What they do care about is, of course, commercial success, sponsorships, and we know since last week there's been a huge meltdown about what Jim Ratcliffe said and how that's going to affect commercial revenue. All these sponsors sat there panicking, thinking, shit, we've got all this money tied down in United, Adidas, Snapdragon, they're commercial companies that have worldwide success. They've got a worldwide customer base who will be affected by what Jim Ratcliffe has said just about the UK. Now, we've gone through this whole Jim Ratcliffe saga about whether he was right or wrong and what he said, but put that to a side right now, okay? I'll do a completely separate show to do with Jim Ratcliffe and whether he was right or wrong and what his comments were and what the impact has been, because I really can't do it in these kind of live streams because there's lots to cover. And I'll go through his interview in depth. We'll analyze it word by word because I feel like it needs to be justified. I think there needs to be a further in-depth view of what was said and why it's caused such a huge backlash, because I still feel like there's some fans out there who don't actually understand what the big hoo-ha is about. They're thinking, well, wait, what did he say that was that bad? So I will explain in a video. It won't be a live stream because there's obviously lots to talk about, but this is now getting to a point where we're seriously considering whether Jim Ratcliffe is going to last in the position as part owner of Man United. That's what's going to happen. That's what we've been predicting. But I think the big problem we're hearing right now is that the fact that the Premier League are investigating Jim Ratcliffe, and that in itself brings United into disrepute. When you have an owner that's been investigated for what he said in an interview, is just not a good look. And it already, he's guilty already by the public jury out there, the jury which is the public social media. And they've taken these words and said, right, okay, look, these were bad enough for him to leave. These should be resigning. Anybody else in any other position of employment would have to resign. Now imagine if maybe an MP, a member of parliament, or someone in another walk of life, in another industry, had said these comments. They would have to resign. They would have to. You would be getting calls of resignation from them, and people would be saying, right, you've got to leave. You've got to leave. So why is Jim Ratcliffe still in the job? That's what many people are now saying. And the Glazers are really feeling the heat and they want out. They want out because this is affecting the share price. This is affecting the overall look of Man United and where United are going. The Glazers have been very careful at making sure that the brand is never affected. The brand stays unique, the brand stays global, and it attracts a world audience because that's where the money comes in, right? You're not going to get people from Saudi or the Middle East or anywhere else trying to buy United if it's not a brand that's all-inclusive, a brand that no one wants to be associated with. The names like Adidas, they're not just based in the UK. They're not just based in the West. They're based across the globe. They've got millions and millions of billions of customers around the world who'll be sat there listening to Jim Ratcliffe, and then they'll be thinking, shit, I'm not going to go and buy a Man United shirt because I might be associated with the comments made by Jim Ratcliffe. And that is a real possibility. That is a real possibility. Most Man United fans will accept that what he's done for the club is made us look like a complete and utter laughing stock. We're a joke, right? The rival fans have been taking the piss. Everyone's been texting me, rival fans, saying, look, oh my God, like, you know, you thought the Glazers were bad. Look what you've got instead, right? You thought he was your knight in shining armor. Well, there you go. Look what he's saying. Look what he's done to your club. And he has brought us into disrepute as a club. The club should not have to be making statements about them being all inclusive. If you go to Old Trafford, you will see the difference, the amount of different people that are there, and the club in its entirety. The fan base is completely widespread across the world. We are unique in that way. There's only a few of the clubs, I say Real Madrid, Barcelona, that are like that, where they've got fans across the globe from all different walks of life. And Jim Ratcliffe saying what he said has now led for the Glazers to start exploring, you know what, the sale of Man United. Now, we said a couple of months ago that the Glazers were in talks with the consortium in Dubai. It was leaked by Turkish Sheikh Al Turki in Saudi Arabia. And he said, look, there's some consortium group in Dubai that are looking to buy Man United off the Glazers. Now, many people are probably thinking, well, what are you talking about? He owns 27% or something. Of course, they can't force him to sell, but they can. There's a clause within the contract which Jim Ratcliffe signed when he first bought the minority shares of Man United that said that he's got an exclusivity period for 2 years in which the Glazers can't sell to anybody, they can't do anything, and if Jim Ratcliffe decided to, he could actually buy out the Glazers and take over the entirety of Man United. That exclusivity period actually expired. It expired, and now the Glazers have the opportunity to sell to whoever they wish, and they can force Jim Ratcliffe to sell his shares. I know it sounds crazy, but that is part of the agreement that Jim Ratcliffe signed. So yes, he is in danger of now being pushed out, and that's why we're hearing reports that this could actually happen. This is on the horizon, given what he's done. And look, it's quite simple. If you're the Glazers, you've protected this cash cow, this amazing asset of yours is worth probably in the region of £5 to £6 billion, and you're waiting to cash out on that. You're thinking, right, okay, one day there's going to be a rich billionaire who's going to be crazy enough to pay us over the odds, £6-7 billion, and we'll sell him the club. But if there's a part owner who's actually affecting the value of your club by making crazy statements, what do you think you'd do as a Glazer? What do you think you'd do as a majority owner of the club? Of course, you're going to protect your asset. You're going to protect your asset at all costs. The worst thing you can do is allow a minority shareholder to come in and start depreciating the value of the stock. And that's what could eventually happen. And of course, imagine if sponsors start pulling out. That's the biggest fear. It only takes one. It's like a domino effect. You get one sponsor who says, thank you very much, but no thank you. We don't want to take part in United's future, achievements or whatever they're planning. We don't want to be part of that. Thank you very much, but we're going to pull our sponsor. Next person and next person and the next company, and it goes on and on. It'll be a domino effect where other companies will start pulling out thinking the same thing. Of course, right now, everyone's watching to see the fallout, and the fallout hasn't stopped. That's the problem. I think the problem lies is, I think the fallout would have stopped if Jim Ratcliffe came out and made a proper full-on apology and retracted everything he said. But he didn't. He didn't actually make that apology. He actually said about the words he used. That's all he said. He didn't say he was not happy with the comment he made or what he said. He just said the choice of words wasn't the right in the right context. That's all he said. So he still maintained that he was still upset with immigration and so forth. But look, I'm going to go into that in another show where I can actually take a deep dive into what he said and whether you agreed with him or whether you didn't. But as the Glazers sat there, they don't want this shit show going on. Of course they don't. They don't give a crap about what's going on in the UK politics. And most football fans don't either. Most football fans don't want to mix the two. They don't want to mix politics with football. That's been something inherent in football, right? We've never liked mixing football with politics because we see football as an outlet. We see it as somewhere where you can leave everything at the door. You come in and you don't care who it is next to you, who's doing what. You're all Man United fans and you can enjoy a moment of just relief and peace from the rest of the crap that's going on around the world. You can actually enjoy some football and forget all the stresses of life. That's what football's about. It's an outlet. And Jim Ratcliffe has completely shattered that for lots of fans out there who are now debating whether Jim was right, whether he was wrong, what politics is this, and what are your politics, what are my politics, and bullshit like that. It was just always going to be a complete shit show. And the Glazers have been really, really upset with Jim Ratcliffe since he's made those comments. And even then, doubling down with that half an apology. And Ratcliffe should and could have put this to bed really early. But he didn't. And now the Glazers are back on the hunt to sell the club. Now there's talk about, again, the Saudis coming in, again, the group in the middle. Maybe someone actually made a really good comment. Someone actually said, maybe Jim Ratcliffe, the reason why he's come out with this is because he wants to put off any ownership from the Middle East or someone else coming in, someone foreign coming in and buying United. And that's why he's saying, stay away, we're anti-immigration, whatever. And I just want, United is an English club and blah, blah. Maybe that's what he's trying to do. Maybe that's the message he was trying to send out. But the Glazers certainly do not want that kind of message to be sent out. The Glazers want more people to come in and bid for United. They know they need the billionaires crazy enough to come and buy United. And let's be honest, the only ones that you get who are crazy enough to buy football clubs and spend a shitload of money are the ones out in the Middle East, because they've got money just coming out of their backside. They've got money coming out of their backside, and they're completely crazy when it comes to sporting ventures and things like that, and they love to put their money down. I can't see anyone I can't see anyone else coming in and saying, right, okay, do you know what? We're going to put down a huge amount of money on United and take it off the Glazers' hands. The Glazers have always been well connected with the Middle East. They are always there, always rubbing shoulders with these other billionaires, and it's a small billionaires club, so everybody knows. And there's a huge fan base out there as well in Dubai, in the Middle East. There's a huge fan base, and of course they love watching United. So for me, look, it's going to be an eventually, I think this is going to now come to a sale. I think that Jim Ratcliffe will eventually be pushed out. It all depends, of course, on the investigation by the Premier League, what they're going to do. I don't think they're going to do much, but what they will do is affect Jim Ratcliffe's reputation, his credit, his whole look is down the pan right now. I mean, you mention Jim Ratcliffe to anybody who's not even a United fan, and they'll all associate him with the comments he's made last week, because they were headline news across every bloody channel in the wrong way. It was United in the news. How many times have you heard the Glazers in main headline news and everyone talking about them? I mean, they've been shit for United, but let's be honest, even they've not managed to make headline news like Jim Ratcliffe did last week. He just went global. He went global with his comments, and everyone and their cat was flipping talking about him, right? Social media was just all ablaze about Jim Ratcliffe and whether his comments were right or wrong and how he's brought United into a complete shit show. It was just crazy stuff. Let me go to the chats. Let me see what you guys make of this news. Reports coming out that the Glazers are now very serious about making a sale. That's the only way they can get rid of Jim Ratcliffe. They can't really buy his shares out again and pay his money back. They're not going to do that. But what they are most likely to do is go and look for a buyer. There has been interest. Like we said, there's been interest by a few groups that want to buy United, but for whatever reason, they didn't actually follow through with it. They've had meetings, though. That's what we've heard, that there have been meetings between the Glazers and potential new investors, new owners into United. And one reason why they need a new investor, a new owner, is because Jim Ratcliffe has just pissed up everything up on the wall for the new stadium. Andy Burnham, the guy, the mayor of Manchester, the guy who was actually backing United's new Old Trafford or new stadium, literally made a statement about how Ratcliffe is out of order and how the Glazers have milked the system as well and not added anything, no value to the UK. That is, I mean, the Glazers must be thinking, what the hell, what did we do wrong? What did we do wrong? We've just been sat here, we've just been brought into this whole debacle because of our bloody co-owner. Like, we didn't ask for this. Why are we being targeted? And naturally, they will be targeted because they'll be like, right, okay, you're the same. You're the same as Jim Ratcliffe. But again, I'm going to do a proper deep dive into the statement made by Jim Ratcliffe and the fallout. I will then go through the Andy Burnham statement because that is very important for Man United fans to know what he actually said, because this could make a huge difference going in and when we're going to rebuild a new stadium, or if we ever build a new stadium, whether the council, Manchester Council, will back us and give us funds to build and help us, or whether they're going to be a hurdle for United, whether they're going to stand in the way of the owners now and say, well, no favours for you guys because you guys are complete lunatics. We don't want to be associated with you. We don't want to be part of your group. And imagine the outcry from the locals, the local immigrant population, or the local population around Manchester. They'll be who are not Man United fans. Imagine what they'll be saying to the Council of Manchester. Man City fans, for instance. Imagine what they'll be saying. They'll be saying, how dare you fund the new build of a stadium with a company that actually are racist, are absolutely not in line with what we want as a nation or as a city. And that's why Andy Burnham is going to struggle to back anything when it comes to Man United and the new stadium. This is the implications. I know that right now we've sat there, we've watched what's happened, and we thought that, oh look, he'll go away, but now it just keeps on raising its ugly head. And when things like this keep on coming back to the fore, which keep on making headline news, and you keep on hearing these rumblings, you know this is not going to end well. It's kind of the beginning of the end for Jim Ratcliffe. That's how I see it right now. I thought it's going to kind of damage limitation. I thought the day after, when he came out and made the apology, I did look at the apology and thought, right, okay, that's not really an apology. But I thought maybe, just maybe, it might just do the job with Man United actually coming out and making a statement, and a few others linked to United coming out and making a statement. But this is going to ramble on. It's going to carry on. We've got to wait now to hear from Carrick, what he's going to say. I'm sure he's going to come out in a press conference and talk about, the Man United statement made and how it's an inclusive club and blah, blah, blah. But then that's essentially taking a dig at Jim Ratcliffe. And what happens when next time Jim Ratcliffe is in the house? What happens when he's next in Old Trafford? Imagine the reception he's going to get. Imagine if his backlash wasn't bad already about Jim can't fix it and the banners around Old Trafford, what do you think the fans are going to do next time Jim is in the house? Whatever you think about his statements, you have to accept that it's brought United into the limelight in a negative way, and you don't want your club like that. Absolutely not. Yeah, that's exactly what I was hearing. The comments Jim made, he tipped it over the edge, says niche. It's just the tip of the iceberg, Travis. Major sponsors are seriously talking about pulling out. Yes, I mean, that is what we're hearing. I think, look, the problem we've got is United rely on these sponsors like in a big way. I mean, United is all about sponsorship deals. They're still waiting on a sponsorship for the sleeve on their shirts. There's a few other sponsorships that they need to finalise, and of course the big ones, the Snapdragons, the Adidas. They're not going to want to be associated with United if this carries on, and they'll want behind the scenes. They will be talking to their representatives who are linked to United, and they'll be saying, "This is not good luck. You need to put a lid on this." And if this carries on rumbling on and this turns into an even bigger shit show, which there is a chance of happening, then I suspect they're going to have to pull the plug. They're going to have to. And the Glazers will either have to go to Jim and say, look, you need to either sell up and leave, or we're going to sell up and leave and force you to leave. You're completely right. Fans have no idea what the repercussions of this were. I know you disagree with me, but I 100% agree. We lose every game until the end of the season. Look, in my world, I mean, if I've thought about this niche, I've thought about this, and I've thought about this very carefully, and I thought, what would I do if I was a player? And I think what I would do, I would come out and make a statement against whatever Jim said. But I would still say, look, but I'm going to play for the badge because the club is the club. Jim Ratcliffe is a part owner of the club. He doesn't represent my club. And right now, that's my take on it. He doesn't represent Man United. He's just a billionaire who was in the right place at the right time, and he's come and bought United, and he's helped the Glazers out. But he's not part of United. I don't support Jim Ratcliffe. I support Man United. I support the heritage. I support Fergie and the players that have come before Jim Ratcliffe turned up on the scene, and I support the players right now, and I support whoever's going to manage them. But I don't support the owners. There's two different things there. The owners are just people who've got enough money to come in and buy United, and I even doubt whether he is a United fan, and I really do. I know some people might disagree with me, but I look at him and I think, this guy was going to buy Chelsea, man. He's been pictured with a Chelsea top on. I've never been pictured with a Chelsea top on. I don't wear, other Premier League tops, right? I've got tops from other clubs behind me. Barca, I've got Real Madrid. I don't wear them. I just leave them to the side, right? But this is it. This is the problem. You don't have owners who just go and try and buy another club a couple of months before they actually buy United. For me, definitely not someone who I look at and think, oh yeah, he's part of Man United through and through. The players have been sent on holiday because of this. We could have played a few games in Saudi. It didn't happen because they didn't want the media asking questions of, look, the players, I know Bruno's gone off on holiday. I know a few others have gone off because, they want to get away from the shitstorm, and they're sending them away because they know, right, okay, do you know what? Let's get these guys away before anything, before they actually get put on the spot and they have to make a statement, and whatever they say is critical of Jim Ratcliffe, because that could again cause huge issues as well. Can you imagine someone like Bruno coming out and saying something against Jim Ratcliffe, or another top player of ours like say Mbumo or Ahmad or someone else saying Jim Ratcliffe was wrong? What happens then in them circumstances? Do they sack the players? Do they suspend him? What happens? And it turns into a bigger storm. This is it. This is where United are trying to keep a lid on it, but now in the last couple of days, we're hearing more and more reports that this is not being contained. This is going to be a big issue, and it keeps on spiraling out of control. They thought this is going to die down in a couple of days and it's going to be all fine, but we're hearing that the Glazers are still very much pissed off with Jim Ratcliffe and very much afraid that their stock and the value of United could be affected the longer Jim Ratcliffe stays at United. And who knows, what if he carries on making these crazy ass statements again? What if he comes out and says something else next time, right? What happens then? This is why I think it's a huge problem for him. It's a huge problem for the Glazers, who, let's be honest, throughout their time, they've not come and made any statements, but they've never really done anything like this. They've never brought United into disrepute. Yes, they've been arseholes and they've not spent money, but they've kept themselves completely squeaky clean. It's not an easy to get him out when he's the corner. Yeah, it's not. And Jim, exactly, Snapdragon already out. The lawyers are all figuring out how to get their sponsorship deals. They're completely toxic. Look, sponsorships and companies are they're fickle. They're fickle. They don't give a crap about when things are going good. They don't care. They will throw money at you because they know that they're going to be associated with a global successful brand and they're going to get sales as a result. But the moment things go toxic, the moment things hit the fan, they panic and they leave quicker than you can even say goodbye. That's how fast they want to get out of there. I'm hearing Adidas won't renew the kit deal unless Jim goes, and that might even pull out earlier. Yeah, look, that's what happens. Lads, I promise you, this is the tip of the iceberg. I'm hearing Coca-Cola wants out as well. And Jim's split the fan base, demotivated the players and screwed the commercial side of it. Perfect time for Qatar to come in and steady the ship. INEOS can't stay. Glazers want out now before the whole thing fails apart commercially. A sale is going to be really difficult now. That's it. That is it. That's what we're hearing. We're hearing that the Glazers are panicking because they feel like the longer this goes on, the longer this debacle goes on, and the more we get closer to more the general election in the UK, which is maybe a couple of years or so, this is going to raise its ugly head once again, and United are going to be dragged down this political establishment route and stuff, and it's just not good. It's not good to mix the two, or is it? Exactly, Travis. No new stadium now. Jim, until Jim's gone, we're completely toxic. Our enemies can constantly point to Jim. It's unbelievable. Travis and many fans agree with him. Yeah, look, this is the other thing. I was going to, Luman, a good point, because do you know what? Originally, when I first heard of it, and I started seeing people coming out saying, I agree with him, and what did he say wrong? And he wasn't wrong. I think that was the line that I kept seeing. And I thought to myself, do I even discuss this? Because clearly this could affect the channel, right? Overall, that's what you think about. You think, oh, look, do you know, there could be subscribers out there who watch this channel on a regular basis, and they might not like what I say about it, right? My stance on Jim Ratcliffe and what he said. And I thought, no, well, I've got to be true to my own principles, right? You've got to say it like it is. You've got to say it as you see it. If I'm going to backtrack and let go of my principles today, then I might as well not bother. And is it bigger than everything else, the subscribers, the channel? Of course it is. Of course this is, guys. Because in the future, I don't want to be looking back at these shows and say, well, look, I didn't speak out and I didn't say what was on my mind, or what, just because I was afraid about what everyone else might say to me. The reality is that, yeah, look, there are problems with the immigration system in the UK, no doubt. And I said that to yesterday. I think it was Mark who was on. And I said, look, I agree with you. I agree. But what he said about immigration was completely different to what we sit here on a daily basis and think about it. We do think, look, immigration needs to be controlled. We do feel, as most people in the UK who live here, we want to see the people who come here who are, work hard and offer something in taxes and join in making the country great, right? That's what you want. And everyone would agree to that. I don't think anyone would say, I just want people to just come over and just rinse the system and we pay for it, because that's not fair. It's not a fair system. And I agree there is a discussion to be had. And I agree that immigration has been an issue in the last 5-10 years, right? Without a doubt, man, without a doubt. And there's other problems within the UK. You look around, but these are political issues, right? They're nothing to do with football. So for me, Jim Ratcliffe even mentioning them was a big issue. I was like, well, you don't need to be talking about this. Talk about United. Yeah, talk about football if you want to, but don't bring in your personal politics into this shit. It's not like, I sit here and talk about my personal politics, or you guys comment on your personal politics. You leave your personal politics aside. When we're talking about football, you don't go and start talking about football in a setting. Say for instance, if there's something going on, something professional, you don't go into a bloody meeting and start talking about football, do you? If you're at work, you're talking about the work and you're talking about what needs to be done. That's what you do. You box off each little aspect. You don't mix the two. And for me, I think Jim Ratcliffe was wrong in saying what he said, the words used, whether he was trying to make a point or not. It was just done in the wrong way. So yeah, I agree with you though. There are lots of people who agree with him and come out in his defense, and you get the same thing, like he didn't say anything wrong, but he did say something wrong, and that's why there's been a shitstorm. That's why everyone's kicking off, or else it would have been like, oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I can look at the future where we're gonna. I can't look at the future where they are gone because we have been here many times and they never go. You're talking about Glazers and INEOS, but I think the moment the pocket gets affected, that's when they do realise, we need to jump ship. This is the Titanic going down, and we need to quickly make some kind of move to protect our asset or our pocket. Lumen, it doesn't matter if 50%, if the fans agree, it makes us completely toxic from a commercial standpoint of view. Jim has to step down before our next game. It's going nuclear. He's stepping down, allows the players to undercarry. I think anyone else in this situation would have said, look, these are my thoughts, and I've said them and I stick with them, and I'll step down as the owner, and I'll sell my shares and put them up for sale. And I think that's what would have been more you would have got more credit for it. I think when he's doubled down on it and then he's come and made this half-hearted apology, I don't think anyone agrees with that. Those fans who were on his side and said he didn't say anything wrong, even they were like, why is he apologised for? And those fans who were against what Jim Ratcliffe said, they've said, well, that isn't a good enough apology. So he's not won in any court, right? He's not done himself any favours by any stretch of the imagination with any of the fans. So you might as well not have bothered. That's what I think when it comes to that. We've got players on millions combined per week, and we sent them on holiday. Lads, this thing is massive. We should be playing games abroad for millions. I don't want the media asking questions. Well, there was that talk about, remember there was a talk about United playing a couple of friendly games out in Saudi against Ronaldo's Al Hilal and things like that, but then Al Nasser, but it didn't actually happen. And that's maybe I'm hearing that they were saying that, look, Carrick's come in and he said, and they've had a discussion and they said, look, it's best to keep our players rested and focus on the Premier League rather than go and play friendlies, because if they qualify for Champions League, it will mean that they'll get a lot more money than they'll make from going out and playing these friendlies out in the Middle East. Again, let me know if you agree with that or not. Personally, I think, look, we've got huge gaps in our schedules. Huge gaps. I mean, March looks like we're literally the whole of March, we might as well take off. What are these players going to do within that time? And it would have made sense to set up some friendlies, some games where the players can get a run out and, they can keep fresh. Because how much training are they going to do? Surely you need that game time. So for me, that is a huge issue. And I think, I think we could have made some money. Again, I don't know why, but they've not bothered. Luman says, we beat Everton and the manager talks will be gone. What Ratcliffe said will be forgotten, and we will be talking about something new in the market. I thought that last week. I really did. I thought this is going to be all forgotten about and it's going to all go away. Look, he's made his, he said these things, but I think everyone's going to kind of forget about them and walk away. But the problem now is that this keeps on rumbling on. This keeps on going. Now it's like almost a week since he said it, and there's still noises coming out that the Glazers are still not happy. There's still issues. There's sponsors not happy. There's other talk going on. The players are still unhappy with what's going on. And obviously we've got Carrick. I think if we had a game midweek, or if we had a game on the weekend, and everything got over and done with, Carrick got asked the question, and then it was boom, 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 on to the next game, and we had a busy schedule, I think most fans would have forgotten what he said and would have been talking about something else. Problem is that right now we've got nothing to talk about. The press haven't got nothing else to focus on. So they're focusing on the last big news coming out of United, and it, of course, is Jim Ratcliffe. And then this is why it's just building up. It's like a snowball effect. And now everyone's waiting in anticipation of what Carrick is going to say. So everyone's waiting for that day. And yeah, that's going to take over. Imagine being Michael Carrick right now in this shitstorm. He's probably thinking, shit, what do I have to do to bring positivity to this club? I've literally gone and won 4 games in a row and a draw against some of the most top teams in the league right now, and they're not even talking about it. They're not even talking about my success. They're talking about Jim Ratcliffe and the sale of this club and the players being upset and everything else. So I really do feel sorry for Michael Carrick. He is someone I look at and think, shit, man, why was he not allowed to enjoy his success? I think it's massive cop-out, resting the players instead of staying in a 5-star Saudi hotels, playing lesser teams for millions. Completely unbelievable for me. Luman, I'm hearing players are down in tools for sure. Everton smashers. That's going to be a big game. It's going to be a massive game for United, because I agree with one thing, Niche. If we don't turn up against Everton and something happens where we lose or we draw again, I think the fingers will be pointed to INEOS and Jim Ratcliffe. And the other thing is, Luman, I know you've said, look, lots of fans agree with him, but I don't necessarily think they're Man United fans. I think there's lots of people out there who agree with him, agree with Jim Ratcliffe's comments, and they've come out. But I don't think many of them, or not all of them, are United fans. So United fans know the club is bigger than anybody and anyone's political point of view, right? Everyone knows that. The club is Man United. It should not be brought into disrepute by flipping some owner, right? And his political views. The club is huge. It should not be tarred by one owner's perspective. That's what it is. Niche, I would blame the players if they do that. They are professional and get big money, so they should do their job. The players have got no right to punish the fans for the mistakes of Ratcliffe. The question to Carrick is going to be: do you agree with Jim Ratcliffe's comments? That's all is going to. That's all is going to be about until Jim steps down. I think he's going to keep every time Jim Ratcliffe. Look, the person who's been affected most by the comments made is Jim Ratcliffe. He's done damage to himself that is, I think, going to be always linked to him. Jim Ratcliffe is going to be known as the guy who came out with the comments about colonisation. That's what most people are going to remember him for. That's where I think, shit, man, why would you do that? Why would you do that? But I also agree with Luman in terms of the players being professional and the players are not down in tools. I don't think they will. I think they'll be upset. I think they will take their anger out on Jim Ratcliffe in their own way. They might ignore him when it comes to, gatherings and things like that. But I'm sure they're not going to take it out on the fans, and they're going to give as good as they can when it comes to the next game against Everton. But anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there. I want to thank everybody, like always, Jim, Nish, Luman, and everybody else who tunes in, watches the show, gives support to the show. I appreciate it very much. I just want to ask you a little favour. Just hit that like button and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber to the channel. And we'll be back tomorrow. I'll be doing a special show, like I said, but not a show in terms of a live show. I'll do a video on the Jim Ratcliffe and the comments, because I think it does deserve clarification, because I think there's lots of fans out there who are still a little bit confused as to what he said that was that controversial, and those fans who feel like it's a resignation, he needs to go because it was beyond what his job is at United and he's brought United into complete disrepute, and United don't need this kind of distraction when we're working hard to qualify for Champions League. And for me, that's my stance, guys. I feel like we don't need distractions. We need to be laser focused on our job of qualifying for Champions League. I don't give a crap right now about any other minority owner or whatever, but I am hoping that the Glazers can reprimand him and can say, look, sort your shit out, mate. Do not do this to the football club that has been here well before you were born and will still be here well after, okay? United, and it's only United I care about, and everyone else, United fan base, should be doing the same thing, saying, shut up and stay out. Keep everything away from this club. We're focused on achieving greatness. We need to go back where we were at one time. And that's why, for me, ideally, if anyone is not on board, if the Glazers, INEOS, everybody else, if they're not on board with the project, off you get, on your bike. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there. I want to say a huge thank you to everybody, and I'll see you next show.